I remember I was in 6th standard when I first raised this thing to my father that I want to go out to study.
From a small town girl to a successful product owner at a top multinational company, Jyotika's story is one you won't want to miss.
I do not regret or I do not have any kind of thoughts like what could have gone right.
In this video, Jyotika shares her amazing journey, including how she has tackled challenges like ADHD, motherhood, and bullying.
In my mind, I knew that there is something wrong. I don't know what is it, but I know that even though 1,000 times my mom is asking me to keep something in place, I'm not able to do so, and this is not normal.
Plus, she gives us a peek into her experiences working across different cultures around the globe. Get ready to be motivated and uplifted as we dive into Jyotika's incredible journey of resilience and success. Let's jump right in.
Hi Jyotika.
Hi Raj.
How are you?
I'm good. Very excited to see you today.
Thanks a lot for coming on the podcast. When was the last time you took a 15 minutes break and did nothing?
Well, you're asking a wrong person. I don't have Instagram. I have uninstalled it. I have last logged into Facebook in 2017.
Okay.
So that means there is a lot of time around. With a toddler, it gets difficult, but still, I think before going to bed, I calm myself down, and that's usually the time that I'm not doing anything. I am a person who likes to kind of take breaks basically, and I feel like I need it actually. So you're asking a wrong person this question. I'm not a person who would just do one thing after another, and that works for me basically.
I asked you that because, as you said, you have a toddler and you have a day job which is fully demanding. So it is inconceivable to see that somebody who maintains a house and a toddler and a job, how do you juggle all of them?
Basically, it takes time. Nobody is completely, let's say, prepared when a child comes into their lives. It has been 3 years now that my toddler will be 3 soon in May. And by the time I have kind of quite learned and things have gotten easier than before, it's still difficult, but kind of that she is now going to kindergarten and I have a job, basically, let's say that allows me to maybe not work after 5 or 5:30 anymore. It doesn't like require me at least. So after that, I am pretty flexible. I have tried hard also to keep a proper work-life balance around. It sometimes still can get very difficult when there are business trips on the way and then everything. My husband gets into a 24/7 shift basically taking care, but I am basically lucked out, I would say, how my husband is taking care of things. I would give more credit to him than to keep our lives, like to have a proper work-life balance, let's say, in my life.
You are lucky then.
I am definitely, like, I would clearly say I am saying this openly in a podcast, so yes.
You said a very interesting thing about your job.
Yes.
You work as a product owner.
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
It's a relatively new thing that a lot of people don't know about. So how did you get into being a product owner?
First of all, I would give the personal aspect of it. The personal aspect is that I have a technical background. Being a computer science engineer and also my master's in computer science engineering, I definitely have a very strong command on technical stuff, but I really did not like to code myself. My idea has always been like I want to stay close to technology but do not want to develop myself. So I wanted to stay somewhere in the middle, and product ownership seemed to be the most lucrative thing. At that point of time, you will have to communicate with developers on a daily basis. You will work with a lot of interesting technical topics. You have a proper Scrum and Agile framework as well, where you could fit yourself into as one of the roles. And then I think that would be it. And then it came out to be actually true. And then since the evolution of product ownership in the last 12 years, this has also been one of the most interesting jobs kind of in IT culture. So I feel like these two aspects brought me towards the job. That's how it has started. And since I am enjoying it so much, I have not switched my profiles from being into product management to something else.
You mentioned that you have to talk to a lot of developers and different stakeholders.
Yes.
One of the hardest thing that I find when you're talking about leadership positions or a position where you lead people,
Yeah.
is to build consensus. How do you build consensus?
Teamwork is extremely important. I feel like when you have a team of developers, product owner, product manager, scrum master, everybody has an opinion of the long-term view and the short-term view within the product. They have a different aspect of the product depending on what they are working on the topic that they are working on for the product. To me, it feels like the feedback of everybody in the team is very important to me. Taking their feedbacks and their own perspective in the decision making is important. That brings me a lot of data and a lot of facts on the table. And facts is something that nobody could deny, nobody could kind of resist a lot.
Okay.
Facts build consensus. It's not me.
You take all the data in and
Yes.
present it back to the team so that everybody is on the same page.
Exactly.
Has there been a major conflict where you couldn't resolve or build a consensus within the team?
There were times like this if a bigger project is coming in which will kind of exhaust some resources and there are chances that it would be budget consuming as well. You definitely would need to communicate more than usual.
Okay.
And you will have to communicate at different levels. You will have to communicate your plans upfront with the topic. You will have to kind of prepare your team about deliveries on that, about the milestones, and these kind of projects could also be a long-term one where you see unforeseen challenges basically and many explicit and external impacts. I've recently been involved in one such project actually. You need to change the way people are working at the moment, let's say. Everything probably from project management to product ownership to product management to change management, everything should be involved at its best. The key point, everything boils down to communication then. There is some conflict, let's say, but communication will make it easy to go through. Yeah. I mean, at different levels and even repetitive.
You mentioned a very interesting thing about change management and product ownership. How is project management different from product ownership?
Now, a very funny thing comes to my mind. One of my colleagues used to say, or is still saying, that project management is kind of a timely suffering, whereas product ownership is a long-term suffering. That is very funny because these are the questions we also often talk amongst colleagues.
Okay.
So, but the thing is, to be serious or to be honest, basically, it kind of is true as well that when you are involved in project management of a certain topic, you definitely are involved in facilitating some things. You are not the decision maker there. But in product ownership, you are the one who will have to take a decision. So the product owner could steer that project also. Basically, and not perform the project management artifacts itself, let's say. I mean, I would not say what is challenging and what's not, but project management can have some short-term deliveries and then you are out of the subject, your subject changes and you have to switch. That could be also challenging in its way. That you are not attached to the subject for a long term, and some of the projects can run really over the years or something, and then it's very hard to bring yourself out of it, right? You learn from it, you develop with it, but you still have to come out of the subject itself.
A couple of days back, I read this book called as 5 Dysfunctions of the Team. So one of the scenarios there's a CEO who is trying to reorganize the whole thing. Core conflict with the manager, the first level reportees of the CEO is they all consider themselves part of the team that they are leading.
Yeah.
And not part of the CEO's team. So do you also face a conflict like this or how do you identify yourself as, are you part of the team that you're leading, the developers? Or you one of the developers or you one of the management people?
Yeah.
How do you see yourself?
That's an interesting question. I hope this doesn't put me into any trouble. It's very natural to feel like that. It's very natural to feel closer to the team you are developing the product with, because you see these guys every day. You, as a product owner, you start with daily Scrum basically, and then all these constant Scrum ceremonies every 3 weeks or 2 weeks of the sprint, during the sprint, let's say. So it's very natural that you work so closely with these guys and to feel more to be the part of this team.
Okay.
But for me, I would say to be the part of both the teams is equally important for your professional growth, for your professional relationships. Any employee should try to be proactive in both the roles, basically. It also very much depends, according to me, how your manager, so the managing team, the colleagues, the manager themselves, how inclusive they are, how collaborative we are working together. So it really depends on the team environment, of course. I believe that both are equally important. It might feel natural to feel the part of one, but kind of if given the right environments, then yeah, a person would thrive.
So let's turn the clock a bit back and let's talk about your childhood. You grew up in a small town in India, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us something about that?
I don't know if you've heard of this town called Mantla. It is a town or a district, I would say, in Madhya Pradesh, central India, basically. It's really small. It doesn't even have a railway station till date. Most of the transportation still is happening over buses to the closest bigger cities. The closest big city, I would say, is Jabalpur, which some people even might not have heard of, maybe in India. I have grown in a very small city. I would only make links to it for Kanha National Park. So this is one of the biggest tiger reserves in India, which is situated 30 kilometers from my city. This tiger reserve is also famous for being the inspiration for Jungle Book, where Mowgli belongs to. So I'm from that district.
You're friends with Mowgli.
You can say that. It's amazing. Like the environment is serene, and they have tried to still keep it low on the commercial side, and where really the animals are thriving in their natural habitat. Maybe I'm just derailing the subject, but I'm just proud of my city.
So the reason why I asked you that question is, I know you offline, and your story is incredible, where you have to travel to China and to Germany and a bigger city in India also, like Nagpur. It gave you more freedom, or was it having more responsibilities, like cooking yourself and doing errands by yourself and all those things?
Actually, doing a lot of work by myself has never been the problem, because even when I was in Nagpur, we had food arranged, we had living arranged, we had, my father was taking care of everything. The hardest part, I would say, was actually to stay apart from the family, because that which I never imagined would be a big thing when I was actually living with them. There was a big void created when I went there. The emotional support that you are naturally born with, right? So that suddenly kind of stopped, and I belong to a huge family, like all the uncles, their families, everybody, our cousins, everybody living together. And suddenly in a space where you have to study a lot, your parents are not there, your cousins, your siblings are not there, you are alone in some hostel with everybody, all new girls from all over the place of India. So that experience was something very different and difficult. It was being from a same city, growing up with kids of same age. You never kind of get to see that different mentality that other people have also grown with. So that was the first opportunity in my entire life where I met so many different kinds of people, and I can't simply explain the magnitude of the change. I was also bullied during this time, being on the shy and the introvert side of things. My father always said, Trey, stay away from the troubles and things like that. Focus on studies, since I was the first one ever in my entire family, first girl ever. Like, let alone like a girl, but anybody in my family who would go out just for studies. So there hasn't been anybody. And it took me... I remember I was in 6th standard when I first raised this thing to my father that I want to go out to study. But only 6 years later, when I finished higher secondary school, that my father was finally convinced, okay, if she want to do something and she want to live by herself, let her go. So I'm the first one basically, and then there were a lot of expectations that were bound. a lot of learnings that my father already gave me, that you have to keep your focus. Please don't distract yourself from many different things or the big city lights and all that. Just don't get lost in the big city.
How did you deal with bullying?
Most of the time I used to talk about that with the fellows, like with my roommates, let's say, that whatever is going on is not okay. I think we should talk about it. And I was like, okay, let it be. Like whatever has happened, just move on. Probably everything will get okay. I think my roommates were more triggered by bullying than me. And then we all kind of just stayed together basically through it. And times kind of changed because of course they are bullies. They were not performing that well in college. So those things started, and then time kind of made it okay. It was not like we had a big fight. There were times where it could have evolved or converted into something really big, but we didn't let that happen kind of in the end. We just tried not to escalate it to a level that it's kind of irreparable after that. One more thing, I actually also spoke to my parents about it. He tried to explain me or let me know, maybe I'll speak to college management if something wrong is going on. And I believe that he later on spoke to advisors of the hostel and college. He also spoke to them. And then they tried that things are under control. Yeah.
That's really nice of him.
There was also communication very important because we tried to talk to the person, a few people, and then said, that bully undercovers. It was that kind of a person. And it was not like openly doing something wrong, but just trying to make fun.
Okay. I'm glad that's over now. I'm going to jump around the timeline a bit. So you ended up in China in a completely different culture where it is nothing like you've ever seen before. At least the Western part you have seen in movies, and you have some sense of what to expect from the place. In general, Indians don't have much idea about how the Chinese culture is. So how was that experience?
It was something new that occurred in my first job when I actually joined. I didn't think that I would travel so soon. So soon after joining, basically. And 3 months down the line, I joined, and as an intern, that too. And then I was offered to go give the training of the platform itself in China to our Chinese users. I went there fully prepared because I have heard things about internet control, network control, and things like that. I had heard about it. So I went fully prepared with the VPN installed on my phone. It was also covered by the company in my laptop and everything. So I was able to work and so on properly. But the challenge was food. I am a vegetarian, and anything that they would prepare, either the broth or even like the sauces, everything would be covered in some kind of meat.
Okay.
In the beginning, I only was eating in the hotel pickled rice 4 or 5 days every night, like every dinner that I had. But later on, again, I started speaking to my husband, and we together found out a website that would deliver. The website was in English. The payment mode was also manageable for me in the end. And then the last few days was able to actually eat different cuisines, that to the vegetarian version of things. One very funny incident happened when I was leaving China. After the short assignment. The last day, I actually had exhausted all of the cash that I had because I felt like tomorrow I am leaving. My taxi has been prepaid and everything, so nothing's gonna go wrong. What could go wrong now? But as soon as I got down now, the next day I was about to leave, but I was in Shanghai. And in the airport, it was really far away from the hotel. And that's why I started probably around 4:30 a.m. or 5 a.m. in the morning. And it was pretty quiet. It was a cold morning, very cold morning. It was Jan or Feb, probably, if I remember. I had just taken the wrong taxi completely. Basically, I was asked that a taxi would be outside your hotel. And when I got out, this was the only taxi that was standing outside the hotel. I just clearly assumed that this is my taxi. I said, oh yeah, Pudong Airport, right? The taxi driver, of course, didn't understand any word of English. He just took Pudong and told me yes. And I thought, yes, this is my taxi. I sat in, I drew halfway through, and then I realized, is this the taxi that I booked really? just second guessing myself. I started showing him all the details that I had, the taxi driver's name and everything. And then he said, with his expressions, I understood that he's not the same guy. I didn't know what to do. Like, we were already halfway through. And then I just asked him to turn around, and I called the hotel back. Since I didn't speak any Chinese and the guy was simply not understanding even from the translation, I called the hotel people explained them that, yeah, you have to come back. You are not the right person. When I reached back, my taxi driver was already there. Like how they settled the situation, he didn't charge me any money back.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I mean, the taxi drivers just settled in themselves, and the new taxi driver just asked me to get in, and he finally took me to the airport without charging for anything else. So probably they settled it out with my company in the end, but I mean, they didn't cause me any trouble. One of the experiences that I still remember, something going wrong amongst many other things. I was not able to also reach out. WhatsApp was not working. I think Skype was working in the end. This is how I was able to reach my husband. And I was not talking to my family for those entire time. They were in India.
But that shows a lot of resilience. You are incredible at handling pressure and getting out of the situation.
I mean, I was only talking to people.
Okay.
Yeah, I was not dealing with it alone. That's my biggest secret, or something I would say. I take all the help that I need, and I kind of try to figure out who could help me in this particular situation, and then I reach out all the time.
So let's switch back to the time you landed up in Germany. Can you tell us why Germany and how did you come here?
The traditional Indian story. So my husband was working here in Germany at that point of time when we decided to get married. Yeah, it was also a very practical Indian arranged marriage situation, I would say, where we aligned within ourselves about our future goals and everything. And then we decided yeah, it seems like to be a nice opportunity, but I'll tell you that I never imagined or never thought, or it was never my goal to move abroad. It was never my goal. I really, being the eldest in my family, I always aspired to kind of stay close to the family. And I wanted to marry within 3 hours of distance as my home place, basically. But that didn't happen. I was so infatuated with Shiva that I felt like this decision could still work out. Our goals really aligned. Me being a bit kind of now taking social responsibility versus he being very analytical. We thought that this could be a nice decision, and then I moved to Germany because of him.
It's a completely different language, and German society is not that welcoming when it comes to language, for example.
Ask me about it. I mean, I didn't land up to these bigger cities like Düsseldorf or Berlin or others when I came to Germany. I started living in this really small town of 50,000 people called Baden-Baden, like a really luxurious spa town. Many elder people setting about there after retirement, and it was such a lovely place, basically. Literally nobody speaking any English. Even if they knew, at least they would not respond. Whereas all my life I was forced to speak in English. I mean, you are also from India, you know how we are trained in like bilingually, basically. And kind of it felt to me sort of like I have to give up everything, of course, from family to language to everything. Making the decision was not the difficult part, but after coming here and realizing that the gap is too big to cover in a short time, in terms of that I had never worked in India in a corporate world. I had taught in a polytechnic college as a lecturer, and I was teaching in a graduate college also part-time as a lecturer. So my idea was to always go through academics. And I thought that probably it would not be that difficult to pursue academic career here as well in Germany. But in the end, I realized like PhD in India versus Germany are two different stories in terms of language and in terms of chasing professors and things like that. So I kind of thought to give it a try to do a proper job. Then I tried, and after 96 applications,
Wow.
yes, I found this internship in Berlin. So it was kind of a very exhaustive process, having no like corporate background job in India, but here starting right away without studying in Germany at all. So, or without any transfer, like any semester breaks or any abroad exposure of being in abroad, basically. So probably I was just making some mistakes in between in the beginning. You can call it beginner's mistake, basically, while giving interviews and all. But then it worked out. In a lot of companies, actually also worked out.
What do you think was
Yeah.
the trigger for them to let you in? What did you do to click?
Product ownership or product management.
Okay.
Because until now, I was just trying to hit the ground. Like I was just trying to hit at different places. I was trying to get a job as a junior position, normal position. My kind of range was very big in the in beginning,
Okay.
and my focus was not right. That was the problem. But then later on, when as I told you earlier, why I went into product management was I wanted to go somewhere where I did not wanted to develop myself. Like I did not want to like code myself, let's say, but I really wanted to stay close to the technical counterparts. After realizing that probably quality assurance or maybe product management where testing or giving requirements, communication, documentation, these kind of things could suit me well. And product management was something that offered all of this.
Okay.
And then I started looking particularly for product roles.
Okay.
And then there, when I gave the interview, it cracked.
Okay.
So basically, like I really only had to find my focus.
Okay.
This was my mistake, that I was just trying everything. And then it also, the process made me grow a lot.
Okay.
The process made me to find my position actually.
Okay.
So I do not regret, or I do not have any kind of thoughts like what could have gone right or something like that. So it kind of just went into the right direction after that. And then hitting a role in product management in my first job, then I continued to be in it.
So you mentioned that while you were searching for this job,
Yes.
at the beginning you were looking at many different areas, and then you focused in on one particular thing.
Yeah.
I know from our offline conversations that you suffered from ADHD. Was it one of the reasons why you were spread out in such a broad area rather than focusing? Had it something to do with ADHD?
I mean, no and yes. The thing is that the changes that I was going through during that period after coming to Germany were huge. I was moving between India and Germany to complete my master's thesis. And then the change was super huge, change of countries, change of career, change of life, everything at that point of time. And it can be overwhelming, right? So, and that because I have only taught in future at that point of time, I did not know which career path to take at that point of time. Then I realized like that was probably the main reason to try different business areas, try different domains, and interview what suits me, from trainee positions to junior positions to usual software testers. I was trying to kind of hit everything that I could. I wouldn't say necessarily it was an ADHD problem, because I think it was just very natural and very time based.
Okay.
Yes. But ADHD had played a role in my upbringing, definitely. When I was in India, I never knew that this is something that I have or I am born with. Because this is also something genetic. There were severe distractions in my family, being a huge family from cousins and everything, being also from a smaller city, probably when I was growing up, parents as well didn't know that too much TV is not good, let's say. So these smaller things really plays an important part in your upbringing and your growth. So yeah, I always knew that focus was a problem, but whenever like during the examination times, during times when something had to be delivered, I was always doing it.
Okay.
I was always cracking things. I have always been like above average kid, not studying the entire time through, but probably studying at the last minute, let's say. My mom, I remember, always used to ask, where is your focus? Like, why aren't you, like, why is this thing here? Why is this thing not here? And I was like, yeah, I mean, it's normal. My parents also kind of didn't think through it because other qualities of mine really overpowered.
Okay.
Like being good at studies, being good in my social skills, and all this. Until I came to Germany, it was not an issue.
Okay.
Yeah, because of the natural support I was getting everywhere without any efforts, let's say, in India. But later on, in my mind, I knew that there is something wrong. I don't know what is it, but I know that even though 1,000 times my mom is asking me to keep something in place, I'm not able to do so. And this is not normal. Although others forgot about it, I never did. After coming to Germany, when things got to, as you said, you have to do everything on your own, which was not a problem for me personally, but I was still struggling. I was struggling to keep my appointments. I was struggling to just manage everything, the entire home by myself, because at that point of time, my husband was working full time and I was not. So definitely the responsibility of the house was driven to me and driven by me. Yeah, and then both me and my husband realized it actually triggered very much after my first job in Germany. After my first job in Germany, I started seeing these ups and downs, the peaks, very much. Where also like during the evening I was very active, but during the day I was kind of pretty much struggling. And then, but I was working a lot to overcome that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was working a lot. Then I realized like, and I'm feeling fuzzy during the day, not feeling very good, very productive, let's say. And then I decided to finally show up to a therapist. And then telling all the symptoms, they came back and they said that, they asked me to fill out all of the forms that they had, and they diagnosed me clinically that I have ADHD. That itself was very relieving.
Okay.
That, I had known my entire life that there was something, some social awkwardness, something like going on along with it, but I never knew what was it. And now I had a name for it.
Okay.
I had something. It took some time for me to accept it. I was put on medications. And that point of time, I felt like, medications are important. And then I realized like it had severe side effects attached to it.
Okay.
Such as extreme loss of appetite and sleep. And whenever the effects of medications were phasing off, it gave me severe depression. But then I realized like medications were doing me more harm than good, because it was also taking good peaks away. Whenever I used to be extremely excited about things or being happy about things, it just made it very sober. Then I decided to, after being 1.5 years on medications, I stopped taking it. I stopped taking it to feel, and I started feeling much, much better.
Okay.
After that, it was just kind of the behavioral changes and self-management after the acceptance of ADHD that I learned. I tried to kind of identify the symptoms when it came.
Okay.
And I tried to be easy on me during that time.
Okay.
So this is how I kind of tried and I lived with it basically.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's definitely not, I would say, coming on the way during my work. Because during your work, you do have some external motivation and some external impacts to keep you through. Of course, you are under eyes of many people to make very obvious mistakes. Yeah, but just identifying it clinically was something that gave me strength.
Okay.
And then kind of getting accepted by it. But the thing is that this then plays some role in my personal life, basically. Then at home, I kind of give up, and then I be easy, lenient, and kind of be myself in general. And yeah, and then the best part is that my husband really understands it well.
That's really nice to hear that you have learned how to live with this. What
Yeah.
advice would you give to others who are suffering with this so that they feel better about this, or how can they manage it as you are doing?
I forgot to actually thank you, but to bring up this topic basically, because this topic is very close to my heart. I can speak about it for hours, basically, because I have researched a lot. And what I have found very much in the recent times is that there is a lot of misinformation going around internet. Every other person would say that they have ADHD based on some random symptoms. But I would say that usual forgetfulness and kind of making some obvious mistakes can be done by anybody. So I would really ask the people, are they really struggling? So first of all, this would be the question. If they are struggling in their day-to-day lives with some usual things, then definitely they should go for some clinical help. And if they should not self-diagnose, this is my first advice.
Okay.
Just looking at the symptoms until a doctor has diagnosed them. So that is something. And then the other part is acceptability. Acceptability that you have it. I mean, you are a neurodivergent type, and it's not a sickness, it's not an illness, and it's just how your brain works differently. And you have definitely your own powers. When you are in your high peaks, then nobody can stop you, basically. I try to at least never take it negatively. In the beginning, of course, people self-doubt. But I would really ask people to and request people to not see it as any kind of deficiency.
Okay.
Because really, when you are focusing something and things that you like, they are best at it. They are really best at it. And I'm very happy that even celebrities these days are talking about their ADHD.
Okay.
So it's nothing. I mean, it should be really formalized. And today, every other person, some people that I see in my day-to-day life, I feel like, oh my God, this guy is really undiagnosed. Probably he has ADHD. But yeah, so it has given me a lot of self-awareness.
You are also a mother. I know from my wife that during early years of a baby,
Yes.
It's very hard for a mother to fully be there. You were also dealing with ADHD. How did you manage both of these things?
I mean, the good part is that living in Germany, they give a generous maternity leave. When I had my daughter, I took 1 year of maternity leave. The company that I work with also are extremely supportive people. So in the beginning, it was definitely challenging because I delivered during COVID period. And none of my parents or my husband's parents could be here around to support. So it was just me and my husband with this new child, not knowing anything, Google being our friend. We were just trying to live around with no, and coming from a traditional Indian background, that is something that I hear also from the family is very challenging, unknowing that it is actually challenging. They made it more challenging because in probably the Western culture, parents are used to taking care of the kid right from the beginning. But as you know, in India, other family members play an important role after a childbirth, right?
Yeah.
That we didn't get. And probably if we hadn't known this traditional aspect of it, it would have been a little bit easier.
Okay.
But knowing that we are lacking some support actually made it difficult.
Okay.
We are alone. Oh my God, how will we manage? And but kind of things came along, and then as after 3 months of the childbirth, basically, I was able to travel back to India for some support for a couple months. And then from there, I realized, like, no matter how much external support you are getting, as a parent, it is your lifelong responsibility. So you can never expect too much. It is your responsibility to take care of your child. And then as soon as you get prepared around it, that's better. So this I learned being there. Because then I realized, like, back in India, yes, you get a support. But then at the same time, there are so many social challenges, people visiting you unattended, like unannounced, basically. The constant stress of socializing, basically, I would say, that, and then people talking, people giving advices, unwelcomed advices, those kind of things started bothering me. And then I felt like I am at my best place probably. And as soon as I understand my responsibilities well, it would be better. And then in that mindset, I came back to Germany. And then things were not that difficult as before, I would say. So these 7 months in beginning were quite challenging, and it took me time to understand. But afterwards, when I was ready for it, I was ready for it.
So you mentioned about generous maternity leave.
Yeah.
But there is another side to it, right? The longer you take maternity leave, the harder it is to get back into the workforce.
Exactly.
How was your experience getting back into work?
Same as you described, because I took 1 year of maternity leave, as I told you. Right after coming, I started with 100% back.
Just to clarify to our audience, by 100% you mean 100% full time of work?
Full time of work, exactly. So I started working 100% after, and that was a bold decision, I would say, because I mean, that is what usually also women are doing here. But in my case, I felt like being 100% on maternity leave versus like 8 hours of work, dividing into it, it can be pretty overwhelming.
But how did you overcome that?
Yeah. So as I said, like in the beginning, I kept on working to probably, I thought at that point of time that it is only natural feeling overwhelmed with work and baby at the same time. And also coming back at work, it's not the usual job that you were doing. It was picking up the job and probably the changed policies or changed organization completely, right? During the winter months, I went on, continued with working 100%. But as soon as summers approached, or right after spring, I realized that my daughter really wanted to go out. And then I converted to part-time. Then I switched to doing 80%. And then I started making up the time that I had kind of worked before. I started making up that time, and then for 6 months straight, probably I kept it part-time. Then I reached back to full-time.
Okay.
So that was a lesson learned for me, that probably next time when something happens, I probably will start it in phases. 50%, 80%, and then 100% rather than switching to 100%.
Let me ask you one other interesting question.
Yeah.
You work with a lot of developers, and right now the way things are going with generative AI, it seems like we in very near future we would not be needing developers themselves. Do you see your job also being affected by this? Because if there are no developers, there is nothing to coordinate, right?
I would say that it's a bit too early around that. Usually, I believe communication and collaboration again is a very big aspect of doing your job properly. And I feel like it's not just the communication with developers themselves, but it's also about communication with other stakeholders, right? My job is to really try to align and facilitate many things. I feel like generative AI could be probably, yes, as you said, from development point of view, it does make sense that codes could be generated. But these kind of jobs, I will be curious to see some advancements here. But at the moment, it's probably too early, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, that product ownership or product management and the aspects related to it can be reproduced by Gen AI.
Okay.
We are not there yet, I would say.
Talking about future, what hopes and dreams do you have for your kid? The world is changing so fast.
Yes.
No skills. You yourself have got into a role that is pretty new compared to others.
Right.
And there's no guarantee that there will be a similar role when your kids grow up. Based on that,
for sure. Yeah. I mean, every day we are seeing, even being an influencer is a mainstream job now. which was never the case when we were growing up, right?
True.
I would definitely like my kid to be more aware. And it's very easy to be confused with the kind of options we have today. The options of like being an influencer, being on a technical side. So you have to kind of consider every single aspect, like what's trending these days, but still, what will give me more security? Could this be risky, or probably risk will give me more benefits as well? Will this help me secure my kind of future, or is this more money making job, or is it a satisfying job? So I would just like my kid to be really aware of different things, but I would love to help her making a very informed kind of decision of what exactly she would enjoy doing in the long term, basically. Of course, to also consider all the different aspects that would give her security as well as a bit more happiness in future. A mix of what she likes to do, that is definitely there. Yeah.
That's a great thought. Let's end our conversation on such a high note.
Yes.
Thanks a lot, Joe. And
Thank you,
if you
Raj.
can just ask the people watching it to please subscribe to our channel once, that would be great.
Please do subscribe the channel. Raj is doing an amazing and commendable job. Is it your dream, or is it?
No, it's just to convey the message that careers are never a straight line, but there are ups and downs, and we can learn from Joe and other great people like this. Thanks, Joe. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Raj.